Everyone thinks the Jeep Wrangler is the undisputed king of off-road. The go anywhere, do anything but. What if I told you there are 10 forgotten legends, military monsters, rally demons? These machines weren't built for mall parking lots. They were built for war zones. And some of them, they make the Wrangler look like a golf cart. So let's start at number 10 and work our way down to the one machine that makes even G-Wagon fanboys nervous. Number 10, Mitsubishi Pajero Gen 1. Kicking off at number 10, we've got the Mitsubishi Pajero. And before you start laughing at the name, just know this thing dominated the Dakar rally so hard, they basically had to rewrite the rule book. The first generation Pajero hit the scene in 1982, right when the world was going rally crazy. Mitsubishi looked at the Wrangler and said, yeah, that's cute, but what if we actually tried? Here's the kicker. This thing had a turbocharged diesel option, a super select 4WD system that let you switch between two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, and a locked center differential on the fly. The Wrangler? You had to stop, get out, manually lock your hubs, and pray you did it right. But the real flex, Mitsubishi took this beast to the Paris-Dakar rally. You know, that little off-road race that's basically automotive gladiator combat across the Sahara, and they won. Not once, 12 times between 1985 and 2007. 12 times! The Wrangler's trophy case from Dakar? Empty, completely empty. Now, does that mean the Pajero is better than the Wrangler? Not necessarily. The Wrangler wasn't built for rally racing. It was built for war and rock crawling. But if we're talking pure off-road pedigree, the Pajero earned its stripes in the most brutal proving ground on Earth. So yeah, number 10 might seem generous, but wait until you see what's coming next. Number 9. Chevrolet K5 Blazer. At number 9, we've got America's answer to the question nobody asked. What if we made a Suburban, but cut the back half off and made it terrible at literally everything? Meet the Chevrolet K5 Blazer. Now, before the Blazer fanboys riot in the comments, hear me out. This thing was awesome in the most ridiculous, over-the-top American way possible. The K5 rolled out in 1969, right when Chevy realized that Ford was making a killing with the Bronco. So Chevy did what Chevy does best. They took an existing truck platform, the CK pickup, slapped a fiberglass roof on it, and called it a day. But here's where it gets interesting. Under that boxy body, you had a full-size truck chassis, a removable hardtop, and engine options that ranged from adequate to why does this even exist? You could get everything from a straight 6 all the way up to a 454 cubic inch V8 that got 6 miles per gallon downhill with a tailwind. The Wrangler had cute little 4-cylinders. The K5 Blazer had engines that required their own zip codes. Now, the Blazer saw military service too. The US Army used them, law enforcement loved them, and if you were a suburban dad in the 70s who wanted to cosplay as a weekend warrior, the K5 was your chariot. But why is it only at number 9? Because despite all that size and power, the K5 had one fatal flaw. It was huge. The Wrangler could squeeze through tight trails and navigate rock gardens with ease. The K5 Blazer, it needed a trail the width of a 2-lane highway. It was like bringing a rhinoceros to a ballet. But if you needed to tow a boat, haul a family of 7, and crush some off-road trails on the weekend, the K5 did it with more style than the Wrangler ever could. And trust me, things are about to get way weirder. Number 8. Suzuki LJ80. Number 8 is where things get adorable and surprisingly capable. Say hello to the Suzuki LJ80, the Jeep Wrangler's tiny, scrappy cousin who showed up to the family reunion and immediately started arm wrestling everyone. The LJ80 hit the market in 1977, and it looked like someone took a Jeep, put it in the dryer on high heat, and forgot about it for 3 hours. This thing was tiny. You were talking 122 inches long. That's shorter than a modern smart car. It weighed about 1,600 pounds. You could practically pick it up and carry it. But here's the secret sauce. Because it was so light, it could go places that would make a Wrangler nervous. Deep sand? No problem. Steep inclines? Easy. Mud pits? The LJ80 basically floated. It had a 797cc 4-cylinder engine that made a whopping 41 horsepower. Stop laughing. Yeah,
41 horsepower. My riding lawnmower has more power. But in the world of lightweight off-roaders, power-to-weight ratio is everything. This thing was nimble, flickable, and could climb obstacles that would stop trucks 3 times its size. The LJ80 became a cult favorite in places like Australia, where they used them for everything from farm work to outback exploration. It was cheap, reliable, and if something broke, you could fix it with a screwdriver and some duct tape. Now, could it compete with the Wrangler in terms of sheer capability? Probably not. The Wrangler had more power, more ground clearance, and could carry actual cargo. But the LJ80 proved that sometimes less is more. Think of it this way. The Wrangler is a heavyweight boxer. The LJ80 is a featherweight boxer. Different weight classes, but both will absolutely wreck you if you underestimate them. And speaking of underestimated legends, wait until you see number 7. Number 7, we've got a machine that most Americans have never even heard of. But in the Middle East and Australia, it's basically automotive royalty. The Nissan Patrol G60. This beast rolled out in 1959. That's a full 27 years before the first Jeep Wrangler even existed. While America was still figuring out what to do with the CJ5, Nissan was already building a legitimate off-road conqueror. The G60 Patrol was Nissan's answer to the Toyota Land Cruiser, and it was serious. We're talking a ladder frame chassis, solid axles front and rear, and a suspension setup that could absorb hits like a heavyweight fighter. This thing was built for the harshest environments on Earth, and it delivered. In the Australian outback, the Patrol became a legend. Miners, ranchers, and explorers trusted their lives to this machine. In the Middle East, it became the vehicle of choice for desert crossings. Why? Because it simply did not quit. You could beat it, abuse it, and forget to change the oil for 10,000 miles, and it would just keep going. The Wrangler has a reputation for reliability, sure, but the Patrol G60 was built for places where reliability wasn't a nice-to-have feature. It was literally life or death. Now here's the kicker. The Patrol had a 4-liter inline-6 that made around 145 horsepower. That doesn't sound like much, but remember, this was the late 50s and 60s. Torque was king, and the Patrol had torque for days. Now, why isn't it higher on the list? Simple. Availability. In America, the Patrol is basically a myth. You can't walk into a dealership and buy one. The Wrangler? They're everywhere. But if we're judging purely on off-road capability and historical significance, the Patrol G60 deserves way more respect than it gets. And just when you think we've peaked, number 6 is about to blow your mind.
Number 6. Toyota Land Cruiser 70 Series. Number 6 is a vehicle that makes the Wrangler look like a newcomer, because while Jeeps come and go, this machine has been in continuous production since 1984. That's right, the Toyota Land Cruiser 70 Series is still being built today. 40-plus years, one platform, zero apologies. The 70 Series launched in 1984 as Toyota's heavy-duty off-roader, and it was designed for one purpose: to survive the apocalypse. We're talking solid front and rear axles, a body-on-frame construction, and a suspension that could handle payloads that would make a Wrangler cry. This thing became the vehicle of choice for the United Nations, the Australian military, African safari operators, and literally anyone who needed a truck that would still run after being driven through a war zone. Here's the difference between the Wrangler and the 70 Series. The Wrangler is about the experience. Top off, doors off, live in that Jeep life. The 70 Series, it doesn't care about your feelings. It's a tool. It's designed to carry a ton of cargo, tow another ton, and do it all on trails that technically don't exist. And the reliability? There are 70 Series Land Cruisers with over 1 million kilometers on the odometer. Still running, still working. The engine? Toyota's legendary inline-6 diesels that can run on basically anything flammable. The Wrangler has a cult following in America. The 70 Series has a cult following on 6 continents. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but the Wrangler is more fun to drive. And you'd be right. The 70 Series drives like a tractor had a baby with a bank fault. It's slow, it's uncomfortable, and the interior looks like it was designed by someone who hates joy. But if you're choosing a vehicle to cross the Sahara, explore the Australian outback, or drive through a literal civil war, you're picking the 70 Series every single time. And trust me, the top 5 is where things get really crazy. Number 5, Pinskaver 710M. At number 5, we're entering military-grade insanity territory. Meet the Pinskaver 710M.
an Austrian-built, all-terrain monster that looks like someone designed a vehicle specifically to give engineers nightmares. The Pinzgauer was built by Steyr Daimler Puch starting in 1971, and it was designed for one purpose: to go literally anywhere, regardless of physics, common sense, or international law. This thing had portal axles. You know what portal axles are? They're basically a cheat code for ground clearance. Instead of the axle running through the center of the wheel, it sits above the wheel hub, giving you insane clearance without needing massive tires. The Wrangler, normal axles. Peasant stuff. The Pinzgauer also had a split differential system that could send power independently to each wheel. You could have one wheel in the air, one in mud, one on ice, and one on a banana peel, and this thing would still claw its way forward. It was used by over 20 militaries worldwide, including the Swiss Army, the British Army, and a bunch of countries you probably can't find on a map. It saw action in deserts, mountains, jungles, and Arctic tundra. The Wrangler is versatile, sure, but the Pinzgauer was literally designed to operate in any environment on Earth. And here's the kicker. This thing could carry 6 fully equipped soldiers, their gear, and still ford rivers up to 27 inches deep. The Wrangler's water fording depth? About 19 inches on a good day. Now, why is it only at number 5? 2 reasons. First, good luck finding one. These things are rare, expensive, and require a mechanic who understands ancient Austrian engineering. Second, it's slow. The 2.5-liter inline-4 made about 90 horsepower. Flooring it felt like asking a glacier to hurry up. But if you needed a vehicle that could climb a 45-degree slope, ford a river, and then drive through a minefield, hypothetically, the Pinzgauer would do it before breakfast. And just when you thought military machines couldn't get crazier, wait until you see number 4.
Number 4 is hilarious because it's technically a Jeep, but it's the Jeep fans pretend doesn't exist. Say hello to the Kaiser Jeep M715, the military truck that was so overbuilt, so ridiculously agricultural that even the US Army was like, this might be too much. The M715 was built from 1967 to 1969 as a replacement for the legendary Dodge M37. Kaiser, yeah, the same Kaiser that owned Jeep at the time, took their civilian J-Series pickup truck, gave it a military makeover, and created this absolute unit. This thing was powered by the Tornado Inline-6 engine, a 230 cubic inch beast that made about 132 horsepower but over 220 pound-feet of torque. And that torque came on at basically idle. You could lug this thing through mud pits in first gear at 3 miles an hour and never break a sweat. It had a 1.25-ton payload capacity. The Wrangler? About half a ton, if you're lucky. The M715 could carry an entire squad of soldiers, their weapons, ammunition, and probably a small helicopter if you strapped it down right. But here's where it gets weird. The Army hated it. Why? Because it was too heavy, too slow, and drank fuel like a fraternity pledge at spring break. It only served for about 5 years before being replaced. So it was a failure, right? Wrong. After the military dumped them, these trucks flooded the civilian surplus market and off-road enthusiasts went nuts. The M715 became a cult icon in the rock crawling and overland communities. Why? Because that bomb-proof drivetrain, those solid axles, and that insane payload capacity made it the perfect platform for custom builds. People started swapping in Cummins diesels, modern suspensions, and turning these forgotten military rejects into off-road legends. Today, a clean M715 can sell for more than a vintage Wrangler. So yeah, the Wrangler's cool, but the M715 is the crazy uncle who got kicked out of the military, moved into a cabin in the woods, and now lives his best life. And we're not done yet. Number 3 is where things get really weird. Number 3, we have a vehicle that absolutely should not work, but it does. And it's glorious. Ladies and gentlemen, the Volvo C303. Yes, Volvo, the company famous for making wagons for dentists, built one of the most capable off-road vehicles in history. Stop laughing. The C303 was built from 1974 to 1984 for the Swedish military, and it was designed to operate in one of the harshest environments on Earth, Scandinavia. We're talking Arctic winters, deep snow, frozen tundra, and terrain that would make a Wrangler file for early retirement.
Here's what makes the C303 insane. It had portal axles, just like the Pingour, but it also had a fully independent suspension with progressive rate coil springs. That combo gave it ground clearance for days and a ride quality that was shockingly comfortable. The Wrangler? Solid axles that'll rattle your fillings roost on washboard roads. It was powered by a 3-liter inline-6 engine that made about 125 horsepower, but remember, this thing was built for endurance, not speed. It could cruise all day at 50 miles per hour, carry a ton of cargo, and still have enough torque to climb obstacles that looked vertical. The Swedish military used these for everything: ambulances, radio trucks, troop carriers, and even mobile command posts. They were so reliable that some are still in service today, 40-plus years later. Now, here's the kicker. The C303 has a cult following in the overland community. Why? Because it's quirky, capable, and you'll literally never see another one on the trail. While everyone else is driving Wranglers and Land Cruisers, you roll up in a Swedish military box that looks like it was designed by IKEA's engineering department. Could it beat a Wrangler in rock crawling? Probably not. The Wrangler has better articulation and shorter wheelbase. But if you're doing a multi-month expedition through the Arctic Circle, the C303 would outlast 10 Wranglers. And just when you thought we'd reached peak weirdness, wait until you see number 2.
Number 2. Toyota FJ40 Land Cruiser. At number 2, we have the machine that's basically the final boss of vintage off-roaders, the Toyota FJ40 Land Cruiser. This is the one that makes Wrangler owners nervous. This is the one that has almost a mythological status in the off-road world. This is the one that, if you own a clean example today, you basically own a retirement plan. The FJ40 was built from 1960 to 1984, and it was Toyota's answer to the original Jeep CJ. While the CJ was evolving into different models and configurations, Toyota just kept building the FJ40. Same basic platform, same bulletproof reliability for 24 years. Here's what made the FJ40 special. It was simple. We're talking 2 solid axles, leaf springs, a manual transmission, and an engine that was basically farm equipment with a throttle. The F-Series inline-6 engine made about 135 horsepower, but it produced enough torque to pull stumps out of the ground. And the reliability? There are FJ40s in Africa that have been running continuously since the 1970s. They've crossed deserts, climbed mountains, forded rivers, and survived wars. The engines don't die, the transmissions don't quit, the frames don't rust. Well, okay, they do, but less than other stuff. The FJ40 became the vehicle of choice for explorers, aid workers, and anyone who needed a truck that would start every single morning no matter what. In Australia, they're worth more than some houses. In the Middle East, they're still working daily. In America, clean examples sell for over $100,000. $100,000 for a truck that was agricultural equipment when it was new. So why is it number 2 and not number 1? Simple. The FJ40 is legendary, but it's not luxurious. It's not refined. It's a tool. An incredibly capable, nearly indestructible tool, but a tool nonetheless. The Wrangler? It's become a lifestyle vehicle. It's got modern comforts, fancy tack, and heated seats. The FJ40 has a bench seat that feels like sitting on plywood and a heater that might work, but if you're judging purely on off-road capability, reliability, and historical significance, the FJ40 is right up there with the best. And that brings us to number 1, the machine that makes even Land Cruiser fanboys stop and stare. 1977 Ford Bronco half cab. Picture this, 1977. Disco's dying, gas prices are climbing, and Ford is about to kill the short wheelbase Bronco forever. But before it goes, they build one final variant few people remember, the half cab. Open bed, removable hardtop, 4-wheel drive that could chew through mud like butter. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't refined, but it was honest steel wrapped around a 351 Windsor V8 that growled like a caged animal. Back then, you could pull the top off, throw your tools in the back, and disappear into the woods for a week. No computer, no traction control. Just you, a manual transmission, and the hum of leaf springs doing what they were born to do. Today, a clean half cab will cost you more than a brand new F-150 because the people who drove them as kids now want them back. Number 9, 1986 Chevrolet K10 Silverado. Cold steel, chrome bumpers,
a bench seat wide enough for 3 grown men. The 86 K10 Silverado was the last of the square body era and the toughest truck Chevy ever made for the dirt. Underneath, it had something modern trucks forgot: simplicity. A solid front axle, a 350 small block you could rebuild in your driveway, a 4-speed that didn't need a computer to shift. Farmers ran them into the ground. Hunters beat them through frozen forests. And when they finally quit, you didn't call a dealership, you grabbed a wrench. But here's the thing, they didn't quit often, because back then, trucks were built to outlive their owners. That K10 sitting in your neighbor's barn with 300,000 miles, it'll start tomorrow. And it'll probably outlast his new one too. Number 8, 1980 Jeep J10 Honcho. Jeep tried to make a gentleman's pickup. They failed, and thank God they did. The 1980 J10 Honcho was a full-size Jeep truck with the soul of a Wrangler and the attitude of a bulldog. Wide step-side bed, gold and orange graphics that screamed 1980, and a Dana 44 front axle that could crawl over boulders modern crossovers wouldn't even attempt. It came with a 360 V8 that drank fuel like water, but gave you torque that could twist a tree stump out of frozen ground. It had a manual transmission that felt like shifting a tractor, and it had one mission: go anywhere, look good doing it. Most rotted away in junkyards, but the ones that survived, they're legends now. Because the Honcho didn't try to be civilized, it tried to be unstoppable. And it was. Number 7, 1991 Dodge Ram 250 Cummins. Dodge is dying. Their trucks are outdated, underpowered, and overlooked. Then they do something insane. They drop a turbocharged diesel engine designed for farm equipment into a half-ton pickup. The world laughed until it started. That first generation 12-valve didn't just run, it roared. It could tow 10,000 pounds before breakfast. It got better fuel economy than most SUVs, and it was built so tough you could run it 1,000,000 miles if you changed the oil. No computer, no DEF fluid, no emissions nightmares, just cast iron, a mechanical injection pump, and a turbo that spooled like a jet engine. You could feel it in your chest when you pressed the throttle. Today, those early Cummins Rams are worth more than they sold for new, because everyone who owned one knows what they lost. Number 6. Kaiser Jeep M715. This one wasn't born on a showroom floor. It was born in Vietnam. The Kaiser Jeep M715 was a military cargo truck built in 1967 to haul Marines, ammo, and anything else the Army threw at it. It had a Tornado inline-6 that made 132 horsepower and didn't care, because horsepower wasn't the point. Survival was. It came with a 4-speed transmission that could grind through mud, snow, and rice pads. It had a bed that could carry a small tank, and after the war, thousands were sold as surplus to farmers, hunters, and anyone crazy enough to want a truck designed for combat. No power steering, no comfort, just a steel cage, 4-wheel drive, and the knowledge that if it was good enough for a war zone, your dirt road was nothing. Number 5, 1978 Toyota Land Cruiser FJ45. While America was building trucks for weekend warriors, Toyota was building one truck for the end of the world. The FJ45 Land Cruiser wasn't fast, it wasn't flashy, but it could cross the Australian outback, climb Bolivian mountain passes, and survive the Sahara with nothing but a toolbox and a jerry can of fuel. Aid workers drove them into war zones. Explorers used them to map uncharted deserts, and farmers in Africa are still driving the same FJ45s their fathers bought in 1978. No updates, no recalls. Just fuel, oil, and respect. Toyota tried to recapture that magic with modern trucks. They came close, but they never matched the FJ45, because legends can't be replicated. Number 4, 1984 Land Rover Defender 110. The British built an empire, and they did it in this truck. The 1984 Defender 110 wasn't designed for comfort. It was designed to conquer continents. From the jungles of Borneo to the frozen tundra of Iceland, the Defender went where roads ended and logic quit. It had a frame made from galvanized steel, a drivetrain so simple a teenager could fix it with a hammer, and an interior that looked like a tool shed, because it basically was. You sat on vinyl seats. You listened to the wind howl through the doors. You felt every rock, every rut, every inch of the trail beneath you, and you loved it. because the Defender didn't pretend to be a luxury SUV. It was a tool, a brutal, unstoppable, elegant tool. Today, they're banned from import in the US. Too old, too unsafe, too raw. But the people who drove them, they'll tell you the same thing. Modern SUVs are softer, quieter, faster, but none of them are Defenders.
1946 Dodge Power Wagon. There's a truck still working on farms across America that was built the year World War II ended. Let that sink in. The 1946 Dodge Power Wagon was the first civilian four-wheel drive pickup you could buy from a dealer. It wasn't designed for pavement. It was designed for places pavement would never reach. It came with a flathead inline six that made 94 horsepower and could pull a house off its foundation. It had a 4-speed transmission with a granny low first gear that could crawl up a mountain at walking speed. And it had a front-mounted winch that could drag itself and anything else out of hell. Farmers used them to plow fields, loggers used them to haul timber, and the US military kept ordering them for decades because nothing else could match their blend of toughness and simplicity. 79 years later, they're still out there, still running, still working. Because the Power Wagon wasn't built to be replaced. It was built to last forever, too. 1953. Dodge M37. If the Power Wagon was tough, the M37 was indestructible. Built in 1953 for the Korean War, the Dodge M37 was a 3/4-ton military cargo truck designed to survive combat, freezing cold, and complete neglect. It had a 230 cubic inch flathead 6, a 4-speed manual with a 2-speed transfer case, and a reputation for never, ever dying. After the military retired them, thousands were sold as surplus. Ranchers bought them, fire departments bought them, and off-road fanatics turned them into rock-crawling monsters that could climb cliffs modern Jeeps wouldn't dare touch. The secret? Simplicity. No computers, no sensors, just cast iron, leaf springs, and a truck that would start in the Arctic and run in the Mojave without complaint. There's a reason you still see M37s at vintage off-road events. They're not museum pieces. They're still competing and still winning. 1. 1988 Mercedes-Benz Unimog U1300L. This isn't a truck. It's a statement. The 1988 Mercedes-Benz Unimog U1300L was designed for one purpose: to go absolutely anywhere on Earth, regardless of terrain, weather, or common sense. It could ford rivers 4 feet deep, climb slopes that would flip a normal truck, and power through mud that would swallow a Hummer whole. It came with portal axles that gave it 16 inches of ground clearance, a turbocharged inline-6 diesel that made 130 horsepower, but 295 pound-feet of torque at idle, and a fully locking drivetrain that could distribute power to whichever wheel had traction. But here's the wildest part. It wasn't a military vehicle. It was sold to civilians. Farmers in the Alps used them to plow mountain roads. Firefighters used them to reach villages cut off from snow. And adventurers used them to cross continents where no road existed. Today, a clean Unimog will cost you 6 figures, because there's nothing modern that matches it. Not in capability, not in durability, not in sheer unstoppable presence. 10 machines, built in different eras, for different wars, different jobs, different worlds, but they all share one thing. They refuse to be forgotten. Because these trucks weren't designed to impress. They were designed to endure. And they have. If you grew up in the era when steel was real and trucks had soul, stick around. There are more stories like this coming. And tell me in the comments, which one of these 10 would you trust your life with?